Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Headbangers Closet. How about we talk a little thrash metal on a Friday night? So this video is going to be part 2 in my series of underrated and underappreciated 80s thrash bands and 80s thrash albums. I'll try to remember to put the link to my first video in the description to this video, but we all know I'm probably going to forget that. So if you want to check that video out, if you missed it, go to my channel, click videos, scroll down. It's maybe like 5 or 6 videos ago. But it shows some really cool bands and really cool albums in that video, and I'm going to do the same for this one. This 80s thrash metal is a huge passion of mine, and my goal with this video and with all my videos really is to get, just share my passion with you guys and maybe to inspire some of y'all to grab a record you haven't, you might have in your collection but you haven't heard in a while, and maybe give it a spin, or maybe inspire you to check out a band you never really got into, you never really gave a chance, gave it a listen to. Maybe inspires you to check that band out, check them out on Spotify or Apple Music, listen to the music, dig it, go buy the record or whatnot. So hopefully kind of opens you guys up, to maybe listen to something different or listen to an album or a band you haven't listened to in quite a while. So just like that first video, this one's going to be 4 or 5 records. There's a lot of these. Like I said, it's my passion. I love 80s thrash. So there's going to be a lot of these records, a lot of these bands. So I'm probably going to do like maybe 5 or 6 videos. Every month or two, I'll do a new part to it. So I'm just going to pick, I picked out 4 or 5 records here for this one. No particular order. Let's get right to it. Looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say in the comments about these albums and bands. But first things first, let's get right to it. First one's Razor. These guys from Canada formed in 1983. This is, I think, their second full length, which is Executioner's Song. Came out April of 85. Awesome album. Whenever I'm talking about Razor to people, I always say how much I think they sound like a heavier Judas Priest. Maybe like a Judas Priest meets early Slayer. And take a look at the guys in the band. I mean, that looks just like a metal, like thrash version of Judas Priest, in my opinion. So this one, like I said, came out April 85, Execution of Song. So reissue on red, really sharp looking red vinyl, really nice looking. Awesome record. Take This Torch, the opening track on the album is probably my favorite song on it. Fast and Loud's great. Hot Metal's awesome. Death Race is really cool. Just awesome, in-your-face, fast thrash metal. They got a little harder, a little heavier, and kept that same thrash vibe throughout their career. One of the most recognizable vocalists in all of heavy metal, in my opinion, is Stace McLaren. Love the dude. Albums like, Malicious Intent, Decibel, Violent Restitution, and then, they basically put an album out every year in the 80s. 1987's album, I can't remember the name of it, but I think Decibel came out in 86, 87, and Malicious Intent around that same time. Then 89, you had Violent Restitution. I might be wrong on the years there, but after Violent Restitution, McLaren left the band, and to me, I haven't really been into anything they've put out since he left the band. I mean, I've listened to it. It sounds okay. It just doesn't sound the same to me. But Execution Song, a great record. Highly recommend everybody picking it up. Came out April of 85. And then just 6 months later, they put out what is probably my favorite Razor record, which is Evil Invaders. I mean, this thing is awesome. Such great riffs throughout the whole thing. You've got Nowhere Fast, Cross Me Fool, Evil Invaders, and my favorite song on the album was actually on side 2, which is called Cutthroat. This is another reissue that I picked up. This was on blue vinyl, really sharp looking royal blue, really cool. But these guys are awesome. Like I said, they got a vast catalog throughout the 80s. These two came out in 85. Band formed in 83, like I said, in Canada. Probably the best Canadian metal band, in my opinion. But check them out. Like I said, they put out an album out almost every year in the 80s. Great 80s thrash band, really underrated. And they, like I said, they don't have McLaren anymore, but they are still putting out music. They just put a new record, I think, last year or maybe early this year. I don't remember. I gave it a listen. It was cool, but I didn't want to buy it. But they're touring still. They're still doing shows from what I gather. So I'd like to see them maybe if they come around to my area. But Razor, awesome thrash metal band. Everybody should be checking them out. The next one is Los Angeles' Viking. These guys on Metal Blade Records, and they were produced. Their first album, Do or Die, which came out in 88. This one called Man of Straw came out in 89. They were both produced by Brian Slagle of Metal Blade Records. And yeah, that's basically all the notes I have on them. They're a good band. I mean, they played a lot of shows, the late 80s. They're a really solid band. There's a picture of the guys right there. This one's on High Roller Records. I've talked about High Roller Records before, how much I love the record label. This one's on bone white, really sharp looking vinyl. But great record. These guys are just kind of like a kind of American, traditional American thrash band. A lot of American thrash bands, they wanted to either sound like the California American thrash bands, or they wanted to sound like Creator and Sodom, the European German thrash bands. These guys are kind of like a good cross in between. And Man of Straw is a great record. Do or Die, produced by Brian Slagel, like I said, good album, but it's really, to me, like underproduced. It just doesn't sound that good. The riffs are good. The songs are okay, but it just sounds kind of bad. I have it on CD somewhere over there in my CD rack, but it just doesn't sound all that good. But this one right here sounds really good. It's a great thrash metal record. And one cool thing about this album, one among the many cool things about the record, it's got a really cool cover of Pat Benatar's Hell is for Children. If you could picture that, like a thrash metal version of that song, it's on there, dude. It sounds good. I like it. It sounds really good. They do a great job of that song. So check it out. Viking, Man of Straw. Go check them out. Next one we have is Germany's Living Death. These guys are, in my opinion, are a cross between thrash, black metal, and speed metal. This album is called Vengeance of Hell. I've got to check my notes on this one. They formed in 81. This thing came out in 84. And these guys toured a lot. They toured with Warlock, with Doro, just great band. Love Warlock. But this is another reissue that I got. It's on translucent pink. Pretty sharp looking. Coke bottle. Not Coke bottle green, but like Coke bottle pink, I guess. But these guys are really cool. They put out a bunch of albums. Like, check out the dudes in the band. They just look pretty gnarly right there. They don't look super thrashy. They look more like punk and black metal-ish, in my opinion, if you ask me. But, it sounds like a cross between speed, thrash, and black metal, and that's in my opinion. But great record here. They put out a bunch of other albums. A lot of them are kind of like demos and stuff like that, but they put up a bunch of other stuff, and it's kind of like re-recording some from earlier records, earlier demos. But this one, kind of, in my opinion, is the best one. If you want to get into the band, give them a listen. Check this one out. It's called Vengeance of Hell, like I said. But really, really cool thrash metal band with blackened speed elements to it. Everybody should be checking out. Give them a listen. But much like video number 1, and much like all of these videos, these thrash metal bands from the 80s, they go through a lot of lineup changes, guys quitting the band, the band breaking up, and then they kind of reunite. And from what I gather, I had my notes right here, they don't really have anything super recent. Metal Revolution and Protected from Reality and World Neurosis or other albums that they have. But like I said earlier, a lot of the stuff is like just re-recorded songs and demos from this Vengeance of Hell session. So check them out, though. They're a really cool band. Next one, we have Nashville, Tennessee's own Intruder. Super cool late 80s thrash band. This is probably going to be my favorite band. I don't know, maybe between Intruder and Razor, my favorite band of the ones I'm showing today. This one is another reissue. I have a lot of reissues. This is on Metal Blade Records. I have a lot of reissues of these albums just because I had them on cassette tape and CD. A lot of these bands, I couldn't buy everything as a kid. So a lot of these bands I've got on blank cassettes where I might have the album. I'd make a cassette for my friend and vice versa. You guys my age, you all remember the tape trading that we all did back in the 80s. And I basically got all of these on CDs throughout the early 90s, picking them up while I was in high school and then in college, listening to them in the car. I was notorious for taking really bad care of my CDs. I'd put them in, put the CD in the seat next to me, and somebody might sit on it, or they'd be like my bag for school or my gym bag and just break them. I still have them all on the shelf next to me. I don't break them out because most of the cases are in pieces, but try to buy the reissues of the record or the OGs where I can find them. But Intruder is an awesome band. This one's called A Higher Form of Killing. Check my notes. They formed in 84, and basically 84, 85, and 86, they just put out a bunch of demos, and then this thing came out in 89. They do have an album after this that's got a bunch of other stuff on it, like some more covers. It's more like an EP, but this one, I believe, is, if I'm not mistaken, is their first full length, and just great songs on this thing: Times of Trouble, The Martyr, Genetic Genocide, Second Chance. They do have a really cool cover. Not as good as Hell is for Children, by Viking. But this is the Rolling Stones cover, I'm Not Your Stepping Stone. I think it sounds cool. It's not that bad, but it's also not that great. But there's a picture of the guys in the band. Really cool stuff. Dig Intruder. Been listening to this band for a long time, but I just recently got this album probably about 2 years ago, maybe a little bit less, but great band. Check them out. Not a whole lot to kind of dive into with these guys. I think basically everything on streaming is this album and then the EP that came out, I think in 90 or 89, 90. But check them out. Intruder, A Higher Form of Killing. Really, really great American traditional thrash metal in the vein of, like, you know, Megadeth, Metallica, Testament, Overkill, you know, that kind of style. And last but not least for this video, we have Paradox Heresy, their second full length from Paradox. These guys are from Germany. They formed in 86, I believe. Could be wrong. Let me check out the notes. I hate doing that. I like to just kind of have shit memorized, but you know what? It's been a rough week at work. I had to put notes. But yeah, these guys came out, they formed in 86 in Germany. This is their second full length, and it came out in 1986 as well. They basically put out no other albums after this one in the 80s. Everything came out later. So let me read you some of these because it's pretty cool. A lot of 80s thrash bands are kind of doing this. They're finding that, you know, their popularity, you know, it's kind of coming back as more people are discovering the band that a lot of people liked. Heresy from Paradox is an awesome thrash album. One of the best thrash metal albums of the 80s, in my opinion. And a lot of other people think the same way. So, like, a lot of those bands are kind of coming back. So check this out. All right, so Paradox formed in 86. This album came out in, I think, 87. Excuse me, I was wrong. It came out in November of 89. It's their second full length in the last album they put out in the 80s. They didn't put out anything else throughout the 90s, but in 2000, they reunited with a bunch of different guys in the band, like I talked about earlier. Check this out. They put out Collision Course in 2000. Then they put out Electrify in 2008, Riot Squad 2009, Tales of the Weird in 2012, Pangea 2016, Heresy Part 2, End of a Legend in 2021, and they've got a new album coming out this year, 2024, called Mysterium. I have not listened to any of those albums, so I'm really looking forward to kind of diving into it and see what they sound like, see if I want to, you know, pick up some of the records. But Heresy from Paradox, the opening track, Heresy, just absolute phenomenal song. One of the best tunes in all of thrash metal from the 80s. One of the best thrash metal albums in the 80s. Love this one. And this one is another limited to 1,000 copies on gray vinyl. And it doesn't look gray at all. It looks black, but it is kind of like a dark gray. But really, really cool album, really cool band. They are a European band from Germany, but they really, in my opinion, don't sound anything like the other German thrash bands of the 80s, like Creator and Sodom and Destruction. These guys sound a lot more like an Anthrax or, you know, maybe like a Testament, in my opinion. That late 80s thrash metal movement. From California, had bands like Violence, Forbidden, Testament, you know, not so much Exodus, they came out a little earlier, but, you know, bands like that. They sound a lot more like an American thrash band than a European, more specifically a German thrash band. So anyway, there you have it for this video. We've got Riot, we've got Viking, we've got Living Death, we've got Intruder, we've got Paradox. All bands and albums, I think every one of you guys, if you haven't listened to in a while, go give them another spin. If you've never really given them a listen, check them out. They're awesome 80s thrash bands. Would love to hear what you guys have to say about it in the comments, about these bands, these albums. So let me know. Look forward to talking with you guys. Appreciate everybody checking out the channel. I got to go away for work for a while, so it might be a little bit before I do a new video. But I've got some in the can. I'll probably post one in Texas. So anyway, appreciate everybody checking it out. And I'll have another video for you guys very soon. Cheers, everybody. Enjoy your weekend.